Andor Season 2 is going to introduce some very interesting things to the Star Wars universe. We've already heard about some of the more controversial and dark moments, but today we have a new preview that demonstrates some of the more awkward romance, specifically between Dedra Meero and Syril Karn. This is such a weird scene. First of all, it starts off with a kiss, a cold Imperial kiss on the cheek. It appears to me they're keeping their relationship private, but Dedra Meero seems like the last person to be a warm, loving girlfriend. The way these two express their love for each other is going to be so awkward. Not to mention the way the scene ends is very suggestive. The two only have an hour together, and she demands Syril turn out the lights.
Turn out the lights. Turn out the lights. Turn out the lights.
I'm sure you can guess the reason why. I just can't imagine Syril saying something like, "I'm gonna give you the Alderaan special, cause you're about to be blown away." And it's so funny how Syril is upset they only have an hour together. He's a hopeless romantic. I mean, with an hour, you barely have time to explore the Outer Rim. Alright, enough jokes. But to be honest, I think Carl Solar and Denise Gough are wonderful actors. I can't wait to see what Tony Gilroy does with their relationship. This is definitely new for live action. Imperial romance that gets intimate. This underlying calculatedness, not to mention Dedra had Syril followed. She doesn't fully trust him, and as was revealed in the press briefing, she's going to have to withhold the mission Krennic gave her from her boyfriend. But on the spicier front, this isn't the first time Andor's done this. In the first season, there were the infamous scenes with Bix, but how far are they going to take things with this relationship? Another thing to note in the leaked scene, Syril calls his mum Edie by her first name. This shows further tensions between them. She humiliates him, mocks him, and she's a narcissistic control freak. To this extent, you might argue in a twist of Freudian irony, similar controlling tendencies can be found in Dedra. They both try to shape Syril in their own ways. Dedra through professional boundaries, Edie through personal guilt and shame. In a way, they both believe in power through rigidity, structure and submission, whether it's the Empire or social reputation. And it's kind of sad because they're both emotionally distant. Neither woman gives Syril true warmth or support, and yet he seems magnetically drawn to both of them. Syril is projecting his mummy issues onto Dedra, and the way that turns out for him, what he puts up with, how he allows himself to be used and reshaped, I think that could be very devastating. As I said, if their relationship is complex, if there's an underlying distrust, if passions have conflicts with professionalism, there might be times like this, times where the audience is very uncomfortable, because Dedra's emotions are almost impossible to predict. You never really know where she's at. And I've been seeing this thing go around on social media where it's a bingo card of characters you think might die, and fans seem pretty convinced either Dedra or Syril or both of them are not going to make it. The question with a lot of Andor characters is where are they by the time of Rogue One? You would think it's easier for Tony Gilroy to kill them off, but they might just be on other missions. Now, staying on the subject of Andor Season 2, we do have another interesting update. Forrest Whitaker was interviewed by The Hollywood Reporter, and he teases there is a big reveal for Saw Gerrera which he cannot disclose.
There is a big reveal, I can say that. So it is.
As a Saw Gerrera fan myself, I've got a few thoughts on this. My instinct tells me this is something regarding his injuries, how he ends up so battered and like a cyborg by the time of Rogue One. But another couple of options came to mind. What if he's talking about Saw throwing Luthen under the bus? What if Luthen is responsible for a mission gone wrong, and that's how Saw Gerrera ends up injured? And so to get revenge, Saw leaks information about Luthen and Axis Cell to the Empire. Luthen is then cornered, and that's how he dies, or is arrested. And I suppose that kills two birds with one stone. They answer the question of Saw Gerrera's injuries and what happens to Luthen. Another plausible big reveal for Saw is a flashback to his time with young Jyn Erso. Injuries would be at the top of my list. Okay, I'm gonna propose another option, and I will just say as a disclaimer before you say that is so unrealistic, I am being entirely exaggerative. I don't think this is ever gonna happen. It's a wild long shot. This is the last season, let's have some fun. But imagine if Saw Gerrera name drops the Bad Batch, or remembers them, or feels remorse for what happened to Tech. Because fans still do blame Saw's impulsiveness for the death of Tech. Had he waited a bit longer, the Bad Batch could have gotten away. There wouldn't have been the issues with the railcar, and well, you know the rest. Imagine if he says something along the lines of, I had a close friendship with a group of rogue clones. Again guys, I am being a bit fantastical. I don't think this is ever going to happen in the show. It's not relevant. There is a tiny possibility Omega is referenced, but in regards to the Bad Batch coming up in conversation, if someone brings up the topic of clones, then maybe there could be a poetic tie-in, but I can't imagine Tony Gilroy doing this. Who knows? If the season is exploring the backstories of a lot of these characters, what if there's a flashback to Steela Gerrera, Saul's sister? Another little tidbit that leaked last night, someone is being held and tortured, but fans are divided on who this is. Some are saying this is Dr. Gorst, the man who tortured Bix, and she's finally getting her revenge. Others are saying it has to be Syril, just look at the hair and the jawline, but the outfit is the same one Dr. Gorst wore in the first season. If you thought season 1 was dark, I think season 2 is going to take the crown. We're going to see the intensities and horrors of war. You already know the controversial moments which I spoke about in a different video, but now this, and like I say, probably Saw Gerrera's injuries. Yeah, this is going to be pretty full on. And not to mention that for 4 weeks, and that also includes Tales of the Underworld on May the 4th, we are bombarded with Star Wars content, 3 episodes a week. I hope there are going to be lots of theories and fun things to talk about, and as always guys, I will be covering every episode, big breakdowns, reviews, theory videos. I am the channel to watch, so make sure you're subscribed. We do have one more Andor topic, but first, a brand new Star Wars video game has been announced, Star Wars Zero Company. This is the one by Respawn and Bit Reactor that we spoke about only a week ago, but now we have an official title and a first look. This is set during the Clone Wars. This is the game that's been described as XCOM but with a Star Wars skin, and it's a new single-player turn-based tactics game. I think there is going to be the option to recruit more members to your squad, but so far we have an Umbaran, a Tognath alien Jedi, a smuggler, a clone, an R5 astromech, and a Mandalorian. The game will be unveiled at Star Wars Celebration on the 19th, so in 4 days. But to finish, my dear friends, back to Andor Season 2. So I had the exclusive about 2 weeks ago, and I broke the news about the long episode lengths. This has now been corroborated by bestspinbulletin.com, and let's see what they had to say because they provide some more detailed insight. So beginning with the premiere, Episode 1 is 51 minutes, Episode 2 44 minutes, Episode 3 53 minutes, Episode 4 54 minutes, same as Episode 5 and Episode 6. Episode 7, kicking off the third arc, is 44 minutes, Episode 8 is 47 minutes, and Episode 9 58. So the final episode of the penultimate arc is going to be the longest of the entire season. Then for the last arc, Episode 10 48, Episode 11 42 minutes, which is the shortest, and Episode 12 46. So in total, that's a gargantuan runtime, 9 hours and 55 minutes, nearly 10 hours of Star Wars within 4 weeks. Are you guys ready for this? I'm so freaking pumped. If you are, let me know in the comments. Share your thoughts on all of today's updates, the leaked scene, the runtimes, the comments made by Forrest Whitaker, and if you enjoyed this video, my dear friends, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the Force be with you, always.